Alrighty, well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 18th day of June, 2020. Let's get my notes. There we go. Well, we have a 9 energy for today, in case you didn't watch the esoteric influences, but you should. You really should. Anyway, the 9 signifies endings or completion of something, and I don't know. We had a Supreme Court decision today that was really wonderful. In addition to the one regarding LGBTQ folks earlier this week, DACA recipients they upheld that, and so maybe we're going to start to see some better decisions out of the court right now. I don't know, but feels like maybe some of that has now ended. Some of the worry has ended, maybe. That folks have had. So thank the goddess for that, and she influenced, and here we are. So hopefully we'll continue this. This will be a trend with the court, and we'll start to see some more realistic decisions come out of them. I suspect that's what's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, you'll still get the same ones that'll say no to things, but I think that hopefully this signals a trend out of the nightmare we have all been in here of late. The last, 3.5 years has it been? So anyhow, I hope everybody's doing well. I don't know what happened to my left wrist last night, but it was almost immobile. It was in so much pain I don't know what I did, but I did something. So I put some comfrey liniment on it, and then I put some St. John's wort oil. You know, if you've ever, what you do to make that is you're using just the flowers. Although I tend to get when I'm picking the flowers off, I tend to get a little bit of the leaf as well. But that's fine. You don't have to take all that off. But basically, you use them fresh when you make the oil, which is, weird because you don't normally use fresh herb and oil because the water content in the herb will in the fresh herb anyway will cause emulsification to happen, and so you don't do that. But how you get around that is, instead of putting a lid on it, I just use a single layer of cheesecloth, and I rubber band it around it. That way the air and the gases can escape, and so it doesn't emulsify that way. Anytime you're using, you're doing flowers, you usually do them fresh, and so you have to do that, though. You've got to put cheesecloth on it and let the air escape, let the gases escape from the water content. That's really what you're doing. And so when you do that and you set it out in the sun to infuse, you end up with this gorgeous red oil. It's just, oh my God, if you don't, it's not as cool. But anyway, it's really great for arthritis, for sore joints, sore muscles, all of that. So it's used topically. But anyway, I love it, and I always have a fresh batch each year. I notice my St. John's wort is growing. It has not begun to flower yet, but it should here pretty soon. And so I'll go and get another. I'll go harvest some more when there's enough, and then I'll make some more oil. I do a new batch every year. I just like to have fresh oil. I mean, I keep the other stuff, but I just like to have it fresh. So each year, because I have a patch of it. I put it in the medicinal herb garden, and I use it for tincturing and also for salves. So, and also in teas. St. John's wort's great for depression, but it's also good for just pain, just general arthritis pain, neurological pain. Herbs are just great that way. They're so versatile. But anyway, that's what I was doing last night, trying to deal with my wrist, but it's fine now. So that's good because I have things to do, although the cottonwood is shedding and it looks like it's snowing outside. The sun is shining and it's snowing cotton everywhere. So that may have been why I was reacting, because I think maybe I might have just had an allergic reaction last night. My eyes were all swollen from it and from getting it in my eyes and everything, because I was working outside yesterday a little bit. And not for too long, though, because it just got to be too much and I couldn't really breathe anymore. So we finally get a sunny day, and oh gosh, I have to stay in the house. It's not fun. Anyway, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started here, and I've shuffled enough. And usually, when I did the esoteric influences along with this, I would spend that time shuffling. Well, now I have to just talk a little bit so I can shuffle. So anyway, we want everything to be random. We're going to take the first 3 cards, but I'm going to do the 13th one each time. And after we're done, if we don't need any more cards, we'll pull a rune from the Elder Futhark bag. Now, today's rune is going to come from it's going to be one of my willow runes, because for some reason I have lost Vunyo in my hawthorn bag. So I have to find that. I've looked around in here. I don't see it. I'll look out in the living room, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I might have to make another one. And so I thank God I have enough. I still have some more hawthorn stocked that I can use. So I may have to actually do another one so that I can if I can't find it. So anyhow, it's not like I'm not lacking for hawthorn trees around. I certainly have plenty. I just have to find one that's the same size. So that won't be difficult though. But anyway, I'll use those for the runes, my willow ones. They were the very first ones that I did in my whole life. I made willow runes, and because I have some weeping willow trees out there. So it's very significant of the goddess. And so that was why I chose them first to harvest some wood from and make my runes. So I also have a mountain ash, which is the same thing as rowan, and I made a wand out of it, but I haven't made my runes yet. So I have to do that. That's sitting out on the porch. I was waiting for it to dry more. I like to do the wands when they're a little bit wet, so in case I have to, like if there's a bump in them that I don't like or whatever. Sometimes I like to leave the shape the way that it is, so it my rowan wand actually kind of has like a handle that kind of comes down just ever so slightly. There's just a bend right there, and I like it. So I left it in. I didn't try to straighten it or anything, but you can do that, if you have wood that's still wet, not so much when it's all dry, so anyway, that I can do some runes out of those too. So I need to do that because I think the wood it's been sitting on the front porch. I think it's the branch that I took. I think it's sufficiently dry for those. So we'll get some of those done, and maybe I'll have those for the next time we do this. Because I could do that this weekend and get those done. So maybe I'll do next week's runes will be the rowan runes. That will be fun, won't it? Rowan is a sacred druid tree, and so whatever I can do to bring that, to introduce that, any sacred druid herbs or trees or plants, whatever, I like to do. So in any event, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. Oh, well, we have the moon. Had the moon earlier this week. Rebirth, regeneration, deception. We'll talk about that a little bit with respect to Mercury retrograde. We talked about this in the esoteric influences, how I see retrogrades. Right now we've got 6 planets. A couple of them are going to be coming out of it, but I think Venus is coming out of it maybe, and so is Pallas. I think theirs is going to be ending, but I think, oh gosh, there's something else that's going to start, and I forget what it is. But anyway, look for that on the correspondences today. If you check those out over on the blog, I'll do those while I watch this video, while I make sure this is okay. And then down at in the first section is the current outlook. The second section are the correspondences for the day. Well, in the first section down toward the bottom of that, you'll find all the retrograde information. And what I'll do there is, if there's anything else that's coming up, I'll let you know. But Mercury stationed retrograde today, so expect a lot of loosening of things, a lot of loosening of communications. You could have internet problems, you could have mail being delayed, or you could just breeze through it like nothing's happening at all. Some people believe if you're born under and Mercury's in retrograde in your natal chart, that it actually is a positive thing. So I don't know, it just depends on how I guess you look at it. I just look at retrogrades as loosening of the restrictions that are part of, or the energies that are part of, when they're not in retrograde. So if Mercury is the planet of communication and reason and intellect, You know, you may find that maybe you've been on a path that's just not working, so your method of presentation is not working, but maybe use this time to reassess it. You see what I mean? You can make the retrogrades work for you and take command of them, or you can succumb to them. The issue with Mercury is a lot of the time we have to move around stuff. Don't confront it, just move around it. You know, in 3 weeks, it's all going to be okay, right? And if it's not, then you'll know and you'll deal with it more directly. But sometimes during this time, you just have to move around stuff. So anyway, some of this may be what is related to the moon, and we'll talk about that. So. In other words, some things are coming to light and the deception's going away and a rebirth of sorts is happening. So vis-a-vis our relationships with others. The Four of Wands. This is a cool card. And it's going to mirror, and I'll show you that just briefly here. It's going to mirror, you've got the two pillars, two towers from the moon, and you've got the two sets of wands, the two staffs, two sets of two. I'll tell you I'll tell you quickly how I interpret that. You've got two people getting married, and what they've done is they've aligned the polarity within each one, and then allowing them to then come together with one another. Yeah, they've resolved whatever's going on within each one of them to then enable them to come into shared purpose with others. When you see the lobster coming out of the pond with the from the moon card, we're talking about regeneration and rebirth and renewal. So we're going to talk about this, but it's the pathway forward. It might be windy and difficult. It might not be, completely easy, but we're ready for it, and we're ready to come back into balanced energy exchange with people. Something tells me the protests are going to reveal more and heal more than simply the issue that they're dealing with. I suspect that one thing will be the catalyst for everything else to come into order, to come into balance, to come into a better polarity than what we've been experiencing. We could say currently, but truthfully, it's the last several thousand years, really, of patriarchal rule and oppression and seeing people as the other and the enemy and less than you. It's ridiculous, and it's caused where we are now. So it's time to fix that. It's time for it to end. The Ace of Pentacles. We had this the other day as well. Issues of foundation and material security. Something new is on the horizon with respect to that, and I think that that's true. I will stop with just these three and talk about them. But basically, I'm not going to put the moon as significator. I think we're just going to talk about this in terms of the moon, in terms of what we've been experiencing, the Four of Wands, where we're going to go, or what needs to happen as a result of what we're going to talk about the moon, and then the Ace of Pentacles is then where we're going to go. So in a sense, past, present, and future. Normally I don't do that, but I think that it lends itself to that right now. It kind of feels like that's how we should do this. So let's talk about the moon. The 18th card of the Major Arcana, it aligns with today's numerology of the 18th day, and it's 9 energy of completion. When you see a lobster in tarot, it's talking about rebirth and renewal. The lobster sheds its skin and becomes something new. In a sense, we do the same. Our skin cells, what is it they say? Our skin cells are all brand new every 7 years or something. So in a sense, we do the same. We're just not aware of it, right? We just aren't. But the lobster is, and it's a cycle that the lobster goes through. It's the same cycle we go through. And each time we start anew. In a sense, we take a new path forward. Balancing the shadow side of self with spirit. You see the dark and light dogs. You see the pathway of renewal is not easy. It's windy. It's going to go uphill. It's going to go through the mountains up there. You see the break in the peak up, the two peaks up there, or maybe it's one that's just broken in two because of the pathway that we're taking. But it reinforces the idea of the two towers here and the whole idea of the middle way, balancing head and heart, basically. You got the sun, the moon, or rather the moon looking down, all upset at the dogs that won't quit barking at him. Unsure of what the real truth is of the moment. The moon is again about deception. It's also about change and rebirth and renewal and balance. You know, you think about the moon and its effect on emotions. Well, whenever they towed it here, because it's not a natural satellite, it's a spaceship of some kind. And they towed it here. Indigenous peoples will tell you there was a time when the moon wasn't there and that it was towed here. And I believe them. They have no reason to lie. And they seem to have a better understanding of who and what we all are than the rest of us do. So I don't know. So when it was towed here, things changed. Suddenly we had seasons, we had cycles, we had, we're mostly water. So it's going to have, and we're magnetic. So everything has this magnetic, everything is magnetic, okay? Everything is magnetic. And so there's the pull, and basically the magnetism pulls us into this and that, right? Well, the moon has that effect on our emotions. So in a sense, every time, every day, we renew. We have the chance to renew and have a rebirth of sorts every single day. Now, we could take it, but we don't. So, and so then polarity gets off. Problem is now that deception's being revealed, we can no longer ignore the truth of things. And so it's time to realign and to come back into a better polarity, both within and without, so that we can come back together in shared purpose with other people. That's what the 4 is telling us to do. Now that we have shed our skin and it's time for something new, and that which could be anything we want it to be, right? We're not stuck in the same place ever. We can always do something else, always. Or at least have a different perception about what's going on. You might not be able to change your surroundings. You might not be able to change the experience that's encroaching in on you. Or that maybe you've chosen, a soul agreement has maybe chosen it. So you may not be able to stop what's happening, but you can change your perception within it. You at least have that power to see it differently. Here you have the line of demarcation. This is now, this is then, or this is then and that's now, maybe. Because they're standing on the other side of it. So whatever they needed to do, which is to come into alignment with one another so that they could get married, they've done. And now everybody's on the other side of that demarcation line. So they've come back together. You see the crossed garlands up here, similar to Gebo. It's an X rune, looks like an X, and indicates balanced energy exchange with others. But here you can see, this is the fire element, so they've had to bring each other's will into balance so that they can then come back together with one another. Now it looks like there's only 3 garlands or 3 bouquets that they're holding up, but but their 2 hands are kind of together here in the middle, so there really could be 4. But even if it's not, you're talking about spirit, body, ego in alignment. Ego transmuting into spirit. Anytime you get married, theoretically, you're doing it because there's an agreement there between both of you of some kind. And I'm just using that word, in a real general sense. There's an agreement. You agree you love one another. You agree that you accept one another for who they are. Well, unless you don't. There's that issue as well in marriage. But because, eventually you're looking at your spouse and you're going, why did I marry you again? What are you doing? It's that kind of stuff that goes on, right? And so then you have the battle of wills. If you can resolve a lot of that before the marriage takes place, which is what these people seem to have done, will is in alignment, both within and without, between the two people. And they're ready to begin their life together. We're going through the same thing right now, collectively, where, and maybe you're going through this individually as well, where you're kind of having to shed some of the perceptions that you've had. If it's about the virus, maybe you're having to realize here that no, this really isn't a personal sovereignty issue. This really is just a health issue. No matter what, crazy thing you think might be happening, no matter how you think this might have gotten started, we don't need to worry about that right now. We're going to figure it out. If it's not what they say and it's really something else, we're going to know that. All right, just let that go right now. Right now, we just need to survive it. So with the moon, you could say that perceptions are going to change and deception, self-deception maybe, falls away. And you can maybe see things with a little more clarity, allowing you then to come into shared purpose with other people and restructure that foundation for yourself. Okay? Makes sense? Now, with an outcome, past, present, future. Hand reaches out from the cloud. You can see the brilliance here, the rays of that experience emanating into the earth. Pentacles is the earth element, so it's talking about our material security. It's talking about our collective aspect of self in society. We talked, the rune for the day was Manas from the esoteric influences, and so we're talking self and society there. We'll choose another one here for today, but for this reading, but think about that in terms of self and society. That's how I discovered my Vunyo. Rune was missing out of my Hawthorne bag, because I'm counting. I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's missing? And it's Vunyo, so I don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere hiding on the floor somewhere. I don't know. I have to go find it. Though. It's driving me nuts. But basically, what we have here is our material security, and our foundation is changing based on the ability to come together in shared purpose. You look at the greenery on the wall and on the archway. You see another path, and you see a mountain in the distance there, but we know that if we go forward in shared purpose, we might have a struggle, but we're well prepared for it because we're doing it together. You see the shared abundance as we go through that archway into new experiences. We take that with us now. The shared path forward. It's the notion of the collective response to something. People being on the same page, the momentum that gets created. I said this, I think, in the esoteric influence, or maybe I said at the beginning of this, I don't know. It's going to be a little weird for a while. But the idea that 80% of us, if just 80% of us wore masks when we're out and about, we'd quash this thing. We'd get a handle on it. But we're just going to have to be, to understand that masks are in our future for a while. Maybe for the next couple of years. We don't know. We don't know how long it's going to take. And will the vaccine be enough? Will we have enough therapeutics to keep people from dying, in other words? So we don't know. I mean, if past is prologue, this is typically what happens. But we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what this is. They say they do. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're not. They're suggesting there's mutations. They're going to have to see what that looks like. And how do they deal with that? They get a vaccine. Well, it's going to have to be enough of them, right? The flu vaccine doesn't cover all of it. What if you get the one it doesn't cover? Well, maybe it'll help it not be as bad for you. I don't know. Everybody's got their own ideas about what vaccines are and whether that they're good or bad or whatever. But right now, I think we just need to focus on doing whatever we can do to survive. And, if it means wearing a mask, then wear a mask. I don't know why this is such a big deal for people. I really don't. But if we're going to have a new path forward with that the Ace of Pentacles is suggesting, the only way that happens is if we do it together. It's not going to happen if some of us are and some of us aren't. And it's getting to the point where I'm going to start voting with my dollars where I go. If you aren't going to take care of me and protect me when I'm in your store, maybe I don't shop there anymore. Because there's going to be people that are going to start to do that if they're not already. They're taking a look at what's going on. And they're seeing just how many of these businesses are acting with care and concern for their customers, as well as their staff. Because if you're not going to protect your staff, if your staff aren't going to protect me, I went to a feed store last week, never go back. Young kids are running it, young girls. No masks, no social distancing. They lost my business before they ever got it. I don't know. I don't understand this. You know, it's just such a simple thing to do, to wear a mask. Don't make it a thing. Be a warrior. Wear a mask. Faye, who's the rune for today? I finally learned to center these a little more. Anyway, Fehu is the first rune of the Elder Futhark. We're talking about cattle, means movable wealth. There was a time when as tribes started having, more cattle, they found that that their wealth was tradable, that their assets basically were tradable with others. They were also movable. Cows walk, right? So you weren't necessarily stuck in one spot for very long. You could explore the area and move your tribe around, and you'd have, if you had pasture land or just grasses and whatnot, the cattle would feed wherever you went. And so you could take your wealth with you, and you weren't necessarily stuck in one place. Although I think they typically tried to find a place to be, but sometimes, you couldn't stay there. Maybe other tribes were warring with you or something. And so you had to take your stuff with you. And this way, it could walk alongside, basically. So that it was considered movable wealth. But basically, Fehu is a sending rune. It sends energy and magical workings. You can chant Fehu at the end of a spell to send the energy if you want to. When you're casting your intention to the universe, to the collective consciousness, you can chant Fehu while you do that, and that will help give a little bit more oomph to the working and to the sending of it out there into the universe. But it's the same thing with how we communicate with others as well. Fehu is right now with Mercury in retrograde. I wanted to look at something here. It's basically the life force. So think of Fehu right now, and in terms of the sending rune. In terms of Mercury being in retrograde right now, you would want to take that energy and make sure you're clear on what it is you're sending into the world. So in other words, if you're working magic, make sure that the intention on it is clear. If you're communicating with people, because that's all magic is communication, really. People just don't necessarily realize it when we're communicating with someone to suggest maybe a different way of thinking. I mean, it's free will. You can do what you want, but maybe we'll plant the seed in there and maybe gives you a little pause, and maybe you'll think another way and think, oh, well, maybe what I was going to do or say wasn't the right thing. But anyway, use the energy to do that. Be sure before you reach out to people, Fehu looks like you're reaching out to people here. Before you reach your energy out to others, just make sure that you're clear in your expression. And if you're not, just wait until you are, okay? So use that energy to work with you to make whatever miscommunications you might have during this time of retrograde, just sort of clear things up, all right? So you can use Fehu for that. But basically, it's talking about how we're going to manifest our life force to create growth and success and all of that in our lives. So again, caution with Mercury being in retrograde that that you do that in a way that's effective. And you, so use that Feihu energy, I guess, to make it effective, is what I guess I'm trying to say. So what does that have to do then with the reading itself? When we're talking about the shared path forward with the Ace of Pentacles and reestablishing that, use Feihu in terms of the directionality of it. Use it to help align energies with the Four, to cast the intention of shared purpose with others and shared alignment with others, and use it to cast out deception in your life. So let's take a look at the Geomancy rune. Let's see what we have. Oh, we've got a single dot for fire, single for dual for air, single for water, and dual for earth. So what are we looking at there? Are we looking at a missio? Yeah. So there are 8 geomancy runes, 16 if you consider their complements or opposites, however you want to see it. So right now, let me get my little piece of paper and a pen, and I'll draw this out for you. A missio is about loss. Its opposite is acquisitio, like the word acquisition. So that would be gain. Now, it may or may not have to do with money, okay? So we're just talking about loss or the lessening of something, or the lessening of effect of something, or gain or the increasing of effect of something. It doesn't really become about money until you get to Fortuna Major and Fortuna Minor. There you're looking probably more at money issues. But with a missio and then acquisitio, it's opposite or complement. You're really looking at, it's more of an energetic thing. So we're looking at the loss of something today. Now, with Mercury retrograde, you could say the loss of maybe clarity. But on the other hand, if you're talking about deception, we could see deception going away. Okay? The loss of any loss of alignment before is resulting in a more shared experience now. And so whatever was keeping us from moving forward together has left. We've seen the loss of that, so that we can move forward into a better experience with others. Now, it could be, on the other hand, the outlier. It could reinforce this, suggesting that the loss of all things that are, or the lessening of all things that keep us apart, for example, so that clarity can return. You could look at the Mercury retrograde in the same way, that if deception has been in play all this time, which it has, maybe the Mercury retrograde and is loosening some of that up, and so we're no longer buying into the deception anymore. We're looking more closely at things, because that's the other thing. When Mercury's in retrograde, you got to pay attention. You've got to move around things that are temporary and not get too caught up and freaked out about stuff that might be, you know, like if the internet goes out, it's going to come back on. Unless you didn't pay your bill, then I don't know, you'll have to fix that. But otherwise, it's going to come back on. So just wait. In other words, don't take the bait. Don't rise to the occasion every single time something happens over the next 3 weeks. Try to take a step back instead, see the bigger picture, and try to find a way around it. Let it inform you, just don't let it control you, in other words. So basically, I guess that's, I think that's really what Amicio is saying here. We're losing the stranglehold on perception that has been abusive and oppressive and destructive and deceptive. The stranglehold is being loosened on that, and clarity is returning. And the resolve to not allow this to be our reality anymore is, I believe, becoming every single second of every single day more firmly entrenched in our future. to where we're not going to just allow authority over us to abuse and kill and harm and all of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We've had enough. And it just seems like we're ready to let go of that level of loss that we've all been living with. You know, that's the problem. When you have, I don't care if you have a group of people and you oppress one person in it, if they never get to speak, if pretty soon it becomes a thing, pretty soon everybody's on board with keeping that person quiet. And that's when that person needs to go find a new group of friends, right? But you see that in group process. You see in any kind of a group, a leader will emerge. And if there's somebody given to oppression, well, most of the people in the group are going to follow that person. Even if maybe that's really not what they do, suddenly it awakens something in them and they just follow that person. They're not thinking for themselves. Maybe they know it's not right, but they follow them anyway. And you find yourself then doing things and saying things maybe to someone else in the group that leader has decided, really, maybe, yeah, I don't think I really want them there, because maybe they, say things to this person that, challenges their authority or something. But you'll find that. Think about it. Think about growing up when you had a circle of friends. Maybe one wasn't so much. And the rest of the group seemed to reinforce that truth. And eventually, you either just, beat up on the person so much and we're just ignoring them or whatever you do to them, right? Eventually, they go off by themselves, find another group, or they just go off by themselves. But the bottom line is, it's a group dynamic. And that's where we find ourselves now. It's easy to think of yourself as a law and order person. Unfortunately, now it means you're aligning yourself with this kind of stuff. So again, perceptions are loosening, they're changing. We're ready now to say, oh no, I'm not like that. I'm going to go march with these people because this is what I believe. This is the world I want. I don't want people in my country being harmed because of the color of their skin. That's ridiculous. It's wrong, and it cannot continue. We're all the same underneath. We're all one energy in non-physical. The differences are an illusion. Everyone is the other side of self. Just know that. Just know that. It'll change your life. Just change your life. So anyway, I guess that's it. That's all I really have for today. Do check out the Esoteric Influences, though. I'd love you to do that. I'm uploading it now. It's probably uploaded. I can go ahead and publish it. I'll do that before I watch this and make sure this is okay. And also the correspondences and astrological information for today will go up on the blog over at Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com. Go over there if you want to look at that. The videos seem to be successfully posting on the side panel up toward the top of the homepage there. So if you see them over there, you want to watch them there, you can. It just takes you to YouTube. It just opens up to that anyway. But anyway, it's just a way to see them. If you're over there, you can just click on them there to watch them. But other than that, have a wonderful weekend. I don't do this on Fridays, so I will do the Esoteric Influences, though, every day. Those will go up every day, so check for that. And have a great weekend. And if you're going to be out and about, do so safely. Thank you for wearing a mask. And, if you're out protesting, good deal. I guess I would say to you, the Tulsa rally, if it indeed occurs, please don't go. Just don't go. I want everybody to live. I don't want you to get sick. Don't go. Here's the thing. If you have to sign a waiver, something's wrong. That little hoax. Why do you have to sign a waiver for a hoax, right? Yeah. No, this was never a hoax. And just because the guy in the Oval Office has chosen to do nothing, or to do little, or to do the opposite of everything he should do, doesn't mean we should do that. So thank you for wearing a mask this weekend and for the foreseeable future when you're out and about. Thank you for socially distancing from people, just to give everybody a little extra room to try to stay safe and well. And Thank you for being in this together with everybody, and we'll see you on Monday. So be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.